In the modern metagame, many decks fluctuate from being tier 1 to unplayable. For example, Death Shadow, Infect, and Death and Taxes. The reason that Death and Taxes completely disappeared out of the metagame is because of cards like Fury and Unholy. But in a recent 5-0 by Death and Cat mix, super sweet name by the way, they undefeated with a Death and Taxes list. And while this deck does have some certain staples, there are a few strange ones in this list that I'd like to point out. The first card is Professor of Symbology. This is a 2-mana uncommon from Strixhaven that says when Professor of Symbology enters the battlefield, learn. And if you don't know what the learn mechanic is, it says you may reveal a lesson card you own from outside the game and put it into your hand, or discard to draw a card. This means that we can loot away dead cards in our hand like Cauldron in the early game, or we can grab a lesson card from our sideboard. The one lesson card that we are playing in our sideboard is Reduced to Memory, which is a 3-mana sorcery lesson that says exile target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. That we get this for free off of our 2-drop is actually a pretty sweet deal. And another card this deck's playing is Militia Bugler, which is the 3-mana 2/3 that reads when Militia Bugler enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 2 or less from among them and put it into your hand. So as you can see, Militia Bugler and Professor of Symbology are both great card advantage sources, allowing for this deck to be more grindy and go into the late game with other decks. And if you're wondering what type of Taxes cards we're playing Leonin Arbiter, Thalia, and Archon of Emeria. And alongside Leonin Arbiter, we are playing 4 Ghost Quarter and 4 Tech Edge, which really allows us to pressure the opponent's mana. But will these cards push Death and Taxes into a playable deck in Modern? We're going to answer that question in this video. Match number 1, we are on the play, and our starting hand looks amazing. Vial is the best card in the deck, so we gotta keep. Turn 1, we lead on Plains into a Vial. When it goes Swamp into an Underworld Cookbook, we take up Vial, find a Bugler off the top, run out another Vial, and we'll hold up Giver and our Ephemerate. When it plays Tap Blood Crypt, we Vial in a Giver. Untap, took up both of our Vials. Oh, I misclicked. Oops. Oh god. We draw Leonin Arbiter and play it, and we're gonna hold back Giver so that we can protect it. And opponent discards a Swamp on our instep. Opponent plays out a Verdant, pays for the Leonin Arbiter, and goes to fetch. Finding a tapped Overgrown Tomb. Untap, we will take up both Vials this time. When we find a Solitude, we'll attack in for 2. Opponent discards a Oval Chase on their turn, getting it back to their hand. Then they cast a Bone Shards, discarding Oval Chase, trying to kill our Giver. We'll Ephemerate it. Then they play out a Swamp and buy Gigantha to the hand. So we stack our Ephemerate trigger last so that we can Vial and Bugler before it rebounds, giving us some minor card advantage. We find a Thalia, so we'll leave the Vial on too. And then we Ephemerate our Bugler again, grabbing an Archon. Then we draw a Ghost Quarter off the top. So we'll play out our Archon and attack in for 2. Opponent does nothing and passes. We'll Vial in our Thalia. We draw an Aganjo. We'll attack with everyone. And we're going to hold the Aganjo. On our instep, they cast a Mausoleum Secrets. But I'm not sure how this gets around Leonin Arbiter. I might be wrong though. Yeah, and it doesn't. We'll take this opportunity to strip mine them. And opponent scoops them up. Let's get on to sideboarding. We're going to take out 4 Archons, a Sword of Fire and Ice for Sanctifier, War Priest, and Lauren. In game 2, I forgot to hit the record button, but it was a super long match, grueling, and we ended up losing to a resolved Asmo. Game 3, our star looks amazing. We'll lead on Plains into Vial. When it goes turn 1 Saga into a Haywire Might, we take up Vial, finding Tech Edge. We'll play that out into another Vial. When it runs out of a Seiju, attacks us for 1, and sacks their Haywire Might, trying to kill our Aether Vial, and then runs out a Cookbook. We took up our Vial, finding Ghost Quarter, so we'll run out Leonin Arbiter, play out a Ghost Quarter, kill their Beseiju, and watch Saga go away next turn. They float a mana and fail to find because of Leonin Arbiter. Then they run out a Verdant, but again, Leonin Arbiter shuts that off, and opponent does nothing, passing back to us. Take up Vial to 2, play out our Canopy that we drew, and attack in, and opponent's down to 20. And no land drop for the opponent, meaning that they're still on 0 lands. We'll pay to ignore Leonin Arbiter and Vial in our Stoneforge. And Stoneforge is going to find a Cauldron just to kill the opponent as quick as possible. Again, leave Vial on 2. We find a Professor. We'll run out a Ganjo, activate Stoneforge, put in Cauldron, attack in for 7, put in our Professor, learning, and we pick up a Reduced to Memory. Opponent discards an Atraxa, creating a food, plays out an Urza Saga. On their end step, we Vial in our Leonin Arbiter, and opponent just scoops them up there. So let's get into match number 2. Match 2, we're on the play, and our starting hand looks fine. We'll lead on Plains. Opponent plays out Den of the Bugbear into a Relic, and this is Hayashi, so not surprised to see this be a red deck. We draw a Solitude off the top, so we'll play Tech Edge out into a Lion Sash. They play out a Mountain into a Ragavan, passing, and we find a Vial off the top. We'll run that one out, and just hold up Ephemerate here. And they go to bolt our Lion Sash, and I think we'll let this go. They attack in with Ragavan, and we'll let this hit us. They exile Plains off our top, and still in combat, they pop their Relic. Then they run out another Relic, pick up our Vial. Ooh, and Cauldron is not a great draw. And again, we're just going to pass and do nothing. On our end step, they do exile the Relic, drawing a card. They just go straight to combat, attacking us, making a treasure, and exiling another Plains. planes. They run out a research desk, exiling Blaststone and Unholy Heat, and they play the Blaststone from exile. We untap, tick up Vial to 2, and we draw an Archon, but we're just gonna hold up Vial activation and Ephemerate. On their upkeep, we go to Tech Edge the Blaststone. They let that go. Attacking again with Ragavan, we'll let it go yet again. And they exile another planes, funny. They run out another Blaststone, then unearth the Mistress desk, activate desk, putting a Field Ruin into the exile zone. On their end step, we'll put in our Stoneforge, and we're gonna grab Sword of Fire and Ice. They go to Bolt, we will Ephemerate, we get another trigger, we'll grab our Batter Skull, and we countered the Bolt, which is awesome. And we don't have any more equipments left in the deck, so we won't Ephemerate just yet. We'll tick Vial up to 3, not Rebound, and we draw an Arbiter. They'll activate Stoneforge, putting in our Cauldron, and attack in for 5. Opponent plays out their field, they go to combat, and again, we're just gonna let it go. We don't really care, our cards aren't very good on our deck. Oh no, and they exile a Solitude. That's like their one answer to our Germ. They play a Flame Slash, and in response we'll Vial in our Archon, which means they can't cast Solitude, and now this means they don't have an answer to our Germ. And this is because Archon says you cannot cast more than one spell a turn. Now we'll tick up our Vial to 4. Oh, I'm loving the misclicks here, aren't I? We'll attack the opponent for 7, then run out Leon and Arbiter. Opponent ticks up the Blast Zone, we will Ghost Quarter it, and they fail to find. Opponent casts out a Shatter Skull Smashing, killing our Archon and our Arbiter. Attacks us with Ragavan, we will let that go. On our upkeep, we will tick up the Vial for sure this time. We draw a Canopy, attack in for 5. Opponent's down to 3. Play out a Field Rune, and go to combat. We will evoke a Solitude this time, killing the Ragavan. And opponent scoops him up, get on to sideboarding. We're going to take out 4 Leon and Arbiter, a Lion Sash for Lauren, Burrington, and Sanctifier. Game 2, our hand's a little too slow for my liking, so we're going to mull. Our 6 is a lot better, so we'll keep this. Putting back a Ghost Quarter. Opponent leads on Mountain into Ragavan. We'll go turn 1 Forge Tinder. They go Mountain into a desk. We draw a Vial, so we'll go Flagstones into Vial, holding back to block the Ragavan. And they exile a Spiromancer, and they cast their Spyro out, discarding Magus and an Unholy Heat. We draw a Cauldron, so we'll play out our Tech Edge, and we're just not going to do anything here. We're going to wait till we can hold up Ephemerate on Archon. They attack in with the Spyro. We'll block, they play out a field into a Fable, then pass back to us. Pick our Vial up to 2, drawing a Clearing, and cast an Archon. One discards Field Ruin and Fable off of the Fable's ability. One plays out a Blast Zone into a Flame Slash, so we gotta Ephemerate our Archon. And they Field Ruin our Tech Edge, grab a Plains, and in our upkeep we're gonna crack our Clearing to see if we can get some value off of our Ephemerate. And they bolt our Archon in response. We find a Stoneforge, amazing, so we'll Vial that in. Finding a Sword of Fire and Ice, tick Vial up to 3, and Ephemerate our Stoneforge. Grabbing Batter Skull, then we draw Thalia. We'll play that out, and Ghost Quarter the Blast Zone. Fable flips. Opponent casts a Shatter Skull Smashing, killing our Thalia. Attacks in with Shaman and Seasoned Pyromancer. We'll tick our Vial up to 4, and we find a land off the top. We'll activate Stoneforge, putting in Sword. Equip Sword to Burrington, and we're going to kill the Reflection, finding Ghost Quarter. Opponent casts out a Spyro, discarding another Spyro to Spyro, and they attack in for 8. And they exile Thalia off the top of our deck. They unearth their Mistress desk, and exile 2 Blast Zones. And then they evoke out a Fury, trying to kill our Stoneforge, and we will sack Burrington just to prevent this. And they play out Blast Zone into Thalia, and we'll tick Vial up to 5, drawing a Giver, and we'll Ghost Quarter their Blast Zone. We'll use Stoneforge Mystic to put in a Batter Skull, and equip the Sword to it. They attack him with everything. We'll try and kill the Ragavan. Oh, and they drew a Bolt to kill the Ragavan and kill us, and we're down to 2, and now we gotta get into game number 3. For game 3, our starter looks pretty good. We'll lead on Plains. They play out a Den. We find another Plains, and we'll just run out Stoneforge, and let's pick up Sword. They Flame Slash our Stoneforge, and just pass after that. Draw another land. We'll run out our Sophie now. They play out a field into a Fable. We find a Forge Tender, so we'll play Clearing, play out Forge Tender into a Lauren, killing their Fable. Opponent plays out a field and attacks us, and they bolt Lauren. We'll block with their Forge Tender, and they field our Silent Clearing in combat, and they drew us Shenanigans to kill our Sword. We found another Forge Tender, and we'll just hold back here. Cast out a Solitude this turn. They go to combat, we'll just use our Solitude. They field our Horizon Canopy in combat again, then play out another Fable. We draw a Stoneforge, so run that out. They can up Batter Skull, play out another Forge Tender. We might as well attack in for 1. They just go straight to combat, we'll block with our Forge Tender. And they cast out a Fury, trying to kill both our Stoneforge and Solitude, and we'll just sack Burrington to stop that. And they Unholy Heat our Stoneforge. We find a Professor, we'll play that out, and pick up a Reduce to Memory. And we'll use this now to kill the Fable. And they cast out another Fury, and again we'll use Burrington to stop that. Attack with everything, and we'll trade off here. We draw a Gonjo, and we'll just hold up Solitude this turn. And they dash out a Ragavan, attack in with everything, we will Solitude, killing a Fury, then go to trade with Ragavan. And we found another Solitude, we'll pass yet again. They just go straight to combat, and we will cast out another Solitude. Then they cast a Shatter Skull, killing our Solitude after combat. We find Flagstones, and we'll just hold up a Gonjo and Ghost Quarter here. And they found a Spyro, discarding a Flame Slash and drawing 2. Top deck a Vial. Might as well run it out. They dash out a Ragavan. We'll use a Ganja to kill it. So we'll take up Vial, draw another Ghost Quarter. Still run our Batter Skull, but dredge back Shenanigans and kill it. We might as well run out Ghost Quarter. Yep, and they do dredge Shenanigans, and they destroy our Batter Skull. They go to activate Den. We have to Ghost Quarter it, and they attack us for 3. We're down to 7. And we draw a Giver for turn, so we'll run that out. And then they cast a Fury, killing our Giver, and we're down to 4. And we'll leave Vial on 2. We find a Stoneforge, so I guess we'll Vial that in combat and block the Fury and grab ourselves a Cauldron. They Shenanigans our Vial, so we have to put in our Stoneforge, grab our Cauldron, and they bolt our Stoneforge, getting us. That was a crazy game. Let's get into match number 3. Match 3, we're on the play, and hand looks amazing. Turn 1, we play out our Giver. It goes fetch land into a basic forest, casting Sprawl on white. We find a Bugler off the top, so we'll just cast Stoneforge and find our Cauldron, and we'll hold up Giver activation here. Plays out another fetch, finding Temple Garden, and plays out a Presence. When we top deck a Batter Skull, we're going to play out Arbiter, and we're just going to kill their land here, and we might as well attack in. I don't think Enchantress plays many removal spells. They play out a Plains into Abundant Growth on it, into another Abundant Growth. We found another Ghost Quarter off the top. We'll activate Stoneforge, put in Cauldron, and we'll hold up Giver just in case. And we'll also hold our Ghost Quarter activation because some do involve enchanting a land. So opponent plays Windswept Teeth into Abundant Growth on it, and we'll let this go. Then they run a Destiny Spinner, and we'll just untap here, go in and Giver. And we'll attack in with everything but Giver, giving Leon and Arbiter pro green, so they have to chump block the Germ token. And we force the chump, they're down to 2. And I think Archon's better than getting rid of 2 of their lands. They play out a Triumph into a Leyline Binding, taking out our Archon, and then they concede. Let's get on to sideboarding. We're going to take out 2 Solitudes and a Lion Sash for Lorne and 2 War Priests. Game 2, our starter looks a little strange, but we got to keep. Opponent goes turn 1 Burden. We draw a Giver, so we'll play out Tech Edge into an Aether Vial. Opponent plays out a turn 2 Sanctum Weaver and a Plains. Pretty good start for them. Draw Flagstones for turn. We will run out our Leon and Arbiter and hold up Vial activation for Giver. Opponent plays out another Weaver. On their end step, we activate Vial, putting in a Giver. Took Vial up to 2. Draw another Arbiter, but we had to put in our Professor, find our removal spell here, use it right away. Then we might as well attack in. They block, and we will just pro-white this. Opponent casts out a Leyline Binding, taking out our Leona Arbiter, and then plays out a fetch land. Our upkeep, we'll just leave Vial on 2, draw a Bugler, we'll play out a Ghost Quarter, and I forgot to attack in. They fetch, in response, we'll put in Leona Arbiter, and they fail to find. They play out another land, and on their end step, we will Tech Edge their Zygoth Triumph. Now we'll take up the Vial to 3, draw another Leona Arbiter. Let's start on Vial and Bugler in. We find another Leona Arbiter. We'll play that out, play our Tech Edge, and attack in with the team. And opponent just plays out a Plains and scoops them up. Let's get into match number 4. For match number 4, we're on the draw, and our hand's just a little too slow, so we got them all. Our 6 is worse, so we're going down to 5. And our 5 looks very reasonable, so we'll put back both Tech Edges. Opponent goes turn 1 fetch into a Dragon's Rage Channeler. We find an Arbiter off the top. They play out land and attack us for 1. We draw Thalia off the top, so we'll lead on that. They fetch and Surveil in response, and Thalia resolves. Opponent bolts down our Thalia before they go to combat, and they still don't have Delirium, which is amazing. We fall down to 18. Going a Sash, so we'll run out another Thalia. Opponent untaps and casts an Expressive Iteration, and they exile land, playing it, and now they finally have Delirium, bunking us down to 15. We top deck a Ghost Quarter. We'll play Ghost Quarter and play out Archon, although I don't feel confident about this play, and we'll hold back Thalia. They cast out another DRC and attack him for 3. We're down to 12. We draw a Flagstones. We will play out our Lion Sash, and they have a counter spell, and that's just going to do it for us. They just have too much pressure, and our hand's just too slow here, so let's get on to sideboarding. We're going to take out 2 Leon Arbiters and 2 Ephemerates for 2 Forge Tenders and 2 Sanctifiers. Game 2, we're on a mulligan to 6, and our 6 looks fine. So we'll keep, and we're just going to keep 1 Plains here and try and cheese them out with a Leon Arbiter. Lead on Forge Tender. Opponent goes fetch Shock for a Dragon's Rage Channeler into a Mishra's Bauble, and they put a Consider into the graveyard. And we draw another Leon Arbiter off the top, so I'm just going to play this one, and we'll pass back to the opponent. The opponent just plays out an Islet and passes. And we draw Tech Edge for turn. We'll play that into a Thalia. They cast a Dress Down in response, getting Delirium. So we're going to Ghost Quarter their Steam Vents and attack in with Leon and Arbiter. Opponent plays a Spire Bluff out and goes to combat. They attack us down to 17, and then cast a Murktide Regent as a 5/5. We top deck a Stoneforge, which actually doesn't do much because we do have a Leon and Arbiter on the battlefield. But I think we're supposed to attack them with Leon and Arbiter and hope they block and then play out a Stoneforge. And they do. So we'll take this opportunity to take out their Spire Bluff and then resolve our Stoneforge, grabbing a Cauldron. Opponent plays out a fetch, finding an island, cast an EE for 1, and then they attack us for 5. But I think we're in a pretty good spot to win this one. We top deck an Archon, we'll put in our Cauldron, and we'll attack with everything. They block Cauldra. They're down to 5, and they find another land off the top. They just scoop them up. Let's get into game 3. For game 3, our starter looks pretty amazing, so we got to keep it. Opponent goes turn 1 fetch shock into a DRC. We top deck a Solitude, and we'll just play out our Forge Tender. Opponent casts out another DRC into a Mishra's Bauble, getting 2 Surveils, getting rid of Consider and Lightning Bolt. And they play out an Ottawara and Bauble us, and they pass. We draw planes off the top. We'll just play our planes and go into Athalia, and we'll attack in for 1. Opponent casts an Unholy Heat after playing Islet, turning on Delirium, and we're going to try and keep our Thalia around. We sack Burning Tree, turn off Unholy Heat, and we're going to take 6 here. We draw a Bugler, so we'll run that out, grab a Giver, and use Solitude now to kill one of these DRCs. Attack the opponent for 2. On their upkeep, they Unholy Heat our Thalia, kniving away a EE. Go to combat, attack us for 3. When we draw a Tech Edge, we'll just run out Giver and Forge Tender, and they bolt down our Bugler. They attack us down to 8, and cast another Channeler out. We top deck an Archon. We run that one out, and we'll ship in for 1. And before damage, they cast a Dress Down. Opponent just goes straight to combat. We have to block. We'll give our Archon Pro Red. And after combat, they cast out a Murktide. So we have to cast out this Batterskull, and then block the Murktide and prevent the damage from one of the DRCs to go down to 2. And they just have a Lightning Bolt, which means that I don't think there's any outs for us. Yep, so they go straight to combat. We have to chump and sack the Forge Tender to keep us alive. And they drew another bolt off the top anyways, so let's get into match number 5. Match number 5, we're on the play with an 8th Vial hand, so you know what that means. We go turn 1 Aganjo into Vial. An opponent goes turn 1 Plains. Could this be a mirror? We take up Vial, and we find a Giver off the top. Amazing draw. We'll play Stoneforge, and we'll pick up Cauldra. On our end step, they evoke out a Solitude, getting rid of the Renegade Rallier. So this might be the mirror. And they ephemerate their Solitude, and they play out a Swamp. Attack us for 3, and on their end step, we Vial in a Giver. We'll take up our Vial. We find a land, which means that we can just hard cast the sword. Opponent shocks in a Temple Guard and cast a Wall of Omens. Then attacks us with Solitude. We'll Vial in our Leonin Arbiter. Give Arbiter Pro White. When they have a Village Rites, oh man. Opponent's on something spicy. So we'll take up Vial here, draw in another Archon. We will equip our Arbiter, and we'll attack in. And they do not block. Shoot the opponent for 2 with sword, draw a card, find a Bugler, and we're going to take them off of black mana. Opponent plays out Forest into an Ewit, grabbing a Solitude. On their end step, we'll Vial in a Bugler, and we'll grab a Professor. We keep Vial on 3 and draw a Tech Edge, so we're just going to lead on attacks here. Opponent blocks with the wall. We'll cast out our Professor, and I think this time we'll actually just loot away Cauldra, and we find a Stoneforge. And opponent doesn't know how Leonin Arbiter works, and we get them with the fetch again, and they scoop it up after that. Let's get on to sideboarding. We're going to take out 2 Professors and a Lion Sash for 3 Hushbringers, and for game 2, our hand is amazing. Opponent just goes turn 1 fetch out a Triome. We'll go turn 1 Vial. Opponent shocks in a Temple Guard and cast a Safi. We take up our Vial, draw a Hushbringer, great draw. We're going to play another Vial this turn. Opponent plays fetch land into Swamp, getting a Renegade Rallier into play, getting back a land, and they fetch up a Triome passing after attacking for 2. On their end step, we Vial in our Giver, pick up both of our Vials. When we find an Archon, we'll lead on Thalia, then use Vial, put in a Hushbringer. An opponent casts a Goblin Bombardment. Oh my god, I'm so lost. They fetch out 8 planes and go to combat. We'll block with Thalia. They use Safi to get back Rallier, but it doesn't have an Enter the Battlefield trigger. I'm so lost. We'll give Thalia Pro Red, and it doesn't have any dying triggers because of Hushbringer as well, so I think opponent just really messed up here. Our opponent says gotta go after that. I think they were just the shame concession. I don't know. Anyways, let's get into the wrap up. So overall, this list was super cool. Obviously, the Professor of Symbology was kind of okay. I think that having this card is like not a big mistake, but I don't think it's like super duper powerful and is a need in the deck. But overall, definitely a cool build. I love Death and Taxes. This is like one of my favorite decks in Modern. I've played a lot of this deck, so I think one of the coolest additions to the deck was Militia Bugler. That card was really good the entire league. I've never really thought about adding it to the deck, and just getting some, small minor card advantage on a creature just seems like a really, really good idea. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.